So watched her mother pack her own school bag and hand it to her sister. So is 13 years old. She has walked 4 kilometers in the UD's heat, her report card pressed against her chest like something sacred. She bursts through the compound gate and holds it up before she even catches her breath. Iyamen looks at it. Then she looks past Eso, because Ovok is walking in behind her. And just like that, Iyamen's whole face opens up like a sunrise. She steps around Eso, pulls Ovok into her arms, strokes her hair and says, "My daughter, you look tired. Come and eat." There is one plate on the table. S is still standing at the gate, report card still raised in the air, with nobody left to show it to. That little girl standing at the gate with her report card in the air had no idea that moment was only the beginning. If you want to see how S turned every closed door into the foundation of something unbreakable, hit subscribe and turn on your bell right now. Because this story has twists that will make you question everything you think you know about family, love, and the people who were supposed to choose you. Don't go anywhere. This is where her story truly begins. Udi's was the kind of village that remembered everything. The red soil held footprints for days. The women at the stream talked, and the whole village knew by evening. And in a compound at the edge of the village, behind a rusting green gate, a girl named Eso was learning what it meant to be invisible. She woke before everyone, swept the compound before the sun fully rose, fetched water from the stream while Ovok still slept with her wrapper twisted around her like she owned the bed, because she did. Iyamen made sure of that. It was not that Iyamen was a cruel woman to the world. The neighbors loved her. She tied her wrapper with authority and settled disputes at the village square with wisdom that made elders nod. But the moment she stepped inside that compound and her eyes landed on Eso, something in her went quiet, not peaceful quiet, the other kind. Eso's teacher, old Asiji, saw what nobody at home bothered to look for. He told a colleague once, shaking his head slowly, "That girl is not normal. She carries something inside her that school did not give her." He was right. Eso was sharp in the way that hunger makes people sharp. She solved problems other children walked past. She listened to everything. The night she won the Best Student Award, the whole village clapped. Iyamen clapped too, out there in public in her best Ankara, smiling with her neighbors. But the moment they were home behind closed doors, Iyamen said without looking up, "Go and fetch water before it gets dark." That was all. That night Eso pressed her ear to Iyamen's door and heard something that confused her mother weeping, softly, and whispering a name, a woman's name, over and over like a prayer she could not finish. That name meant nothing to Eso that night. But years later it would explain everything. By 18, Eso had applied for 6 scholarships without telling a single soul. Not almost. Not even God out loud, just in her chest, quietly, the way she did everything. The letter came on a Tuesday. She read it 3 times standing at the compound gate. Then she went inside and placed it in front of Iyamen. Iyamen read it slowly, set it down, looked up and said, "Ovok's introduction is in 3 weeks. You will stay and help organize it. Book will not run away." Something in Eso's face went very still. Not tears, not argument, just the final, quiet closing of a door she had been holding open her whole life. That night she folded the scholarship letter carefully and tucked it into her bra the way Edo women carry what is precious. She packed her raffia bag in total silence, sat on her bed until 4 a.m. Then she left. Amos was the only one who saw her at the junction before sunrise. She pressed an envelope into Eso's hand and held her face for a moment. "Go. Don't look back." Es did not open the envelope. She just walked. She would not open that envelope for 3 more years. And when she finally did, it broke her open in ways she never expected. Benin City hit her like a wall, Okadas cutting between cars, Suya smoke rising over Sapili Road, strangers who did not know her name, her mother, her story. For the first time in her life that felt like freedom, she slept on Amost's floor for months, ate Gary and groundnut, walked to school because the bus fare was not always guaranteed. But S did not complain. She had been built in silence. Silence was her fuel. She graduated with distinction, landed a position at a firm on Sapili Road, began to breathe. Then Odion arrived. He was her mother's brother, or so she had always been told. He showed up one afternoon outside her office, tall and well-dressed, driving a Hilux that was too clean for someone who had just driven from the village. He greeted her with the full Edo kneeling greeting, performed so perfectly it felt rehearsed. He knew her work hours, her street, her favorite evening meal. He said he had heard of her success and wanted to support her, paid her rent, brought her a laptop, appeared at the right moments with the right words almost noticed first. She pulled Eso aside one evening and said quietly, "How does this man know so much about you? You never talk to family." Eso brushed it off. She was lonely. Odeon filled a space she had never admitted was empty, but almost was right to be uncomfortable, because Odeon had not found Eso by accident. He had been watching her for a very long time. It was a small thing that cracked it open. Eso finally opened Amo's old envelope, the one pressed into her hand at the junction years ago. Inside was a note in Amo's handwriting and some folded naira. The note said, "This is from your sister. She made me promise not to tell you." Eso stared at it. Then she checked her phone. All those anonymous transfers she had assumed were from a church welfare program. She pulled up the account name she had never bothered to read fully. Ovok Iyaman. Every single one. For years. She sat on her floor in Benin City and did not move for a long time. She called Ovok. The phone rang several times. When Ovok picked up and heard Eso's voice, she started crying before Es said a single word, as if she had been waiting for this call and dreading it at the same time. "I knew what she was doing to you," Ovok said, her voice breaking. "I was too small to stop it. Then I was too afraid. I am sorry, Eso. I am so sorry. Didn't you just tell me it was you sending the money? Because I knew you. You would have refused it." She was not wrong. If you have been enjoying this story, drop a comment below and let us know, because what is coming next will shake everything this story has built so far. Stay with it. But neither of them knew that the real reason behind Iyaman's coldness, the reason that had roots deeper than favoritism or tradition, was about to surface in the most unexpected place. Eso collapsed at work on a Wednesday afternoon. The hospital on Uzulu Road. Almost as her emergency contact, she needed blood. The hospital contacted Iyaman and Odeon. They both came. The results created a problem the doctor could not explain quietly. He pulled Eso aside and showed her the numbers. Iyaman's blood did not match. Not partially. Not distantly. Not at all. Eso asked him to run it again. Same result. She walked out of that room and looked down the corridor at Iyaman sitting in the waiting area, and Iyaman's face did something that stopped Eso cold. She did not look confused. She did not look alarmed. She looked like a woman watching something she had always known was coming, finally arriving. Later that night, Amos sat beside Eso's hospital bed and held both her hands. Then she told her what she had been carrying for 15 years. As a child, she had overheard a man arguing with Iyaman in hushed Edo inside their compound. The man said, "That child is my responsibility too." Iyaman had told him never to come back. That man was Odeon. Eso lay back against the pillow, thought about the Hilux, the laptop, the rehearsed greeting, the rent paid without being asked. Odeon was not her uncle. He was her biological father. He had loved a woman named Adesua, Iyaman's younger sister. Adesua had died days after Eso was born, and Iyaman had taken the baby, and not out of love, but out of a guilt she never learned how to carry properly. And if Odeon knew all of this from the very beginning, then his kindness, his timing, his perfectly placed generosity, what was any of it really? For she found him at his hotel that same night, still in her hospital wristband. Odeon opened the door and stepped back the moment he saw her face. She did not raise her voice. She asked one question. "What did my mother leave behind?" The silence that followed told her everything. He crumbled. Adesua had left a will, land, a property in Benin City, and a letter written to Eso before she died, as if she had known she was not going to make it. Odeon had debts. He needed that land. He had come back to get close enough to manipulate Eso into signing it away before she ever knew it existed. Es took the lawyer's name and walked out without another word. Obeiski's office on Akbakpava Road the next morning. A dusty file pulled from a shelf. Inside, the will, the land document, and a photograph of a young woman with Eso's exact eyes, Eso's exact jaw, Eso's way of holding her chin slightly up. Es touched the photograph. And for the first time in the entire story of her life, she wept. She returned to Udi's on a dry Harmattan morning. Ovok opened the gate and grabbed her before anything was said. Just held her long and hard like she was making up for years of distance with one embrace. Iyaman appeared at the doorway. And here is where every assumption about what would happen next was wrong. She did not perform, did not defend, did not find the sharp Edo words she was so capable of using like weapons. She tried to speak once, nothing came. Tried again, her mouth opened and closed like a woman drowning slowly in open air. Then she sat down on the floor of her own compound. Just lowered herself onto the red Udi's soil like her legs had finally decided they were done holding the weight of everything she had never said. Eso placed Adesua's photograph on the ground in front of her. Iyaman looked at it for a long time. Then she began, and what came out was not a confession. It was a collapse. She had loved Eso, loved her the way you love something that destroys you just by existing, because every time Eso walked into a room she brought Adesua with her. The same eyes, the same stubborn fire, the same way of lifting the chin when she had already decided something. Iyaman had been the one who told Adesua to end things with Odion. Adesua had listened. The grief of it weakened her through the pregnancy. When she died, Iyaman decided quietly, without words, that it was her fault. And every time she looked at Eso she heard that verdict read back to her, so she pushed her away. Kept pushing, hopping distance would silence the guilt, but Eso never broke, and somehow that made it worse. Ovok stood up. Her voice was shaking but her words were not. You used your guilt as a whip on someone who did nothing to deserve it. She was a child, your sister's child, and you made her feel like a burden for simply being alive. Compound went silent in the way that only happens when a truth has been said that cannot be unsaid. S looked at Iyaman on the ground. This woman who had sharpened her unknowingly into something unbreakable. Then she said quietly, without rage, you could not love me, Iyaman, so I learned to love myself enough for both of us, and God made sure that was enough. She picked up Adesua's photograph, and she walked out. She claimed everything. The land, the property. The letter Adesua had written to a daughter she never got to hold. On the land she built a vocational skills center for young Edo women. She named it Adesua's house. On the opening morning, Harmattan haze, women in Ankara and coral beads, laughter filling a compound that had been empty for 20 years. S stood at the entrance and watched it breathe. Then she saw her, a girl at the edge of the crowd, maybe 10 years old, standing alone, watching everything with large, quiet eyes. Something in her stillness. Something in the way she held herself, like someone who had learned early not to take up too much space. S walked over, crouched down to her level. What is your name? The girl said it softly. Essa smiled. Come inside, there is space for you here. Essa was never chosen, so she built a place where every girl would be. That is what rejection does to the wrong one. It does not destroy her. It shows her exactly what the world is missing, and gives her the fire to build it herself. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And stay close, because the next story coming will leave you completely speechless. You do not want to miss it.